Welcome to the HBCU podcast. You're listening to episode 51. If you're an avid listener or just joining us for the first time, here we're joined by some awesome HBCU grads in the form of co-host and guest. We also focus on all the great things HBCU alumni are doing all over the world. On this episode, we speak with Dayna Kent. She's a graduate of Edward Waters College. Dayna currently serves as Vice President of Membership for the Uncf National Alumni Council. Her vast HBCU experience reaches from Germany to the DMV area, where she served as President of the DC Metropolitan Alumni Chapter for Edward Waters College, and also as a board member for UNCF's Washington Inter-Alumni Council. During this episode, we discuss her HBCU experience, philanthropy, and how a chance encounter with the late, great Johnny Cochran started it all. Keep listening. It's the HBCU podcast.
Hello, my name is Dayna Kent. I am the class of 2004 graduate of Edward Waters College.
So, Dayna, thank you so much for being a part of the HBCU podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. So, Dayna, we already know this. I should get my little natural air horns going. Bum, 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 bum. But you are the first guest that we've had on the HBCU podcast from Edward Waters College.
Hey. Wow. That's awesome.
I know. And ever since I've known you, I've been like, oh, Dayna has to come on. And I keep trying to run into other people that I know from Edward Waters. I know people who have worked at your school, but I don't know too many alums outside of yourself. So shout out to you for being the first on the HBCU podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great feeling and opportunity.
Yay. So, just to let everybody know, Dayna Kent is who we have here today. She is an awesome HBCU advocate, community advocate, Super Delta, etc. And of course, loves Edward Waters College. And she and I have known each other for a little while now. I think we initially met at a UNCF conference, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So, Dayna, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll start off with your HBCU experience, but essentially where you're from, what led you to Edward Waters College, how did you even get familiar with HBCUs in general?
So, I will start from my introduction to Edward Waters. So, my introduction to Edward Waters is actually funny. I'm a graduate of high school from Heidelberg, Germany, in Europe. And over in Europe, I had the opportunity of meeting Johnny Cochran and conducting the first HBCU college fair for the minority students of the high school and in the area.
Oh, neat.
Yep. So I thought that is my introduction to just being familiarized with HBCUs across the board in general. My mom actually is from South Carolina, and everybody in my family is a graduate of South Carolina State. So I knew that I did not want to go to South Carolina State because I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So my grandmother is a graduate of Benedict College in South Carolina as well. So I just kind of wanted to do something different. So what I did was, on my return from Germany, I had to come back to the States before I was able to actually walk with my graduating class. And I went to the career counselor. We pulled up some colleges, and I knew I did not want to do what everybody in D.C. was doing. They were going to just Maryland and D.C. schools. Virginia was like out of town for them. Mm-hmm. But because I had been traveling the majority of my life for high school, I knew that I wanted to go far away, and I definitely was going to go to a HBCU. So I scrolled up the screen, closed my eyes, put my finger on the screen, and that's where I applied.
Wow. Okay. That is definitely a different story.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to go to Clark for communications. I wanted to go to North Carolina A&T. I might be telling my age a little bit, but the dormitories were all booked up, sold out. So I had to go to plan B. So that's when I scrolled up the computer and closed my eyes and put my finger on Edward Waters. So my initial intent was only to go to Edward Waters for one semester until dormitories opened up at Clark or A&T.
Mm-hmm.
But once I got to Edward Waters, I fell completely in love with Edward Waters and landed a major internship with Doc Winters with Clear Channel Radio, which was the CEO of Urban Radio at that time, and I just stayed there.
So Dayna, you just told us a whole lot real quick, but I definitely got follow-up questions. Okay, so first off, you said you traveled a lot and you went to high school in Germany. So was that with your family, military? How did you end up there?
No, actually, I'm born DC, raised in the DMV, and my mom just wanted me to have an academic experience that was broad. She gave me the opportunity to travel all throughout life, so I was not new to traveling to Europe or around the world, but I didn't have the opportunity to go to school anywhere else other than in the D.C. area. So when the opportunity opened itself, my mother, one day I came home from school, she showed me this picture. She said, "Do you like this picture?" I thought it was another vacation. She said, "We're moving there in 2 months." So, of course, I was devastated because I was so excited about going to high school with my childhood friends.
Yeah.
And I quickly changed that for me and exposed me to education in Europe for high school.
Nice. Okay. Now, look, other follow-up questions, because as you talk, I'm still grabbing and getting to know you just even better. So the late, great Johnny Cochran, how exactly did you guys come into contact with each other there?
So I had the opportunity to meet Johnny Cochran. Johnny Cochran, as you know, was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Mm-hmm.
And Kappa Alpha Psi, they had different graduate chapters for fraternities and sororities in Germany. And my mother was active with the Delta chapter, and Johnny Cochran was brought over and hosted by the Kappa chapter in Heidelberg, Germany. And Johnny Cochran came to speak at a community and school event. And so at the school event, I was moved by his speech, and I asked a question. And he asked to speak to me after the ceremony, and he told me that I had a bright future and to call him if I ever needed him. And he advised the brothers of Kappa to help me to be able to charter the junior chapter of the NAACP. And so that's how I was able to host the first HBCU college tour and fair for HBCUs to be exposed to the students in Germany, but as the first president of the junior chapter of the NAACP. And it was because of his recommendation.
Nice. Well, look at that. That is a really awesome story. Do you know at all, and have kept in contact with anybody from high school? Do you know if they, the experience and exposure that you gave them with that HBCU fair, did they end up, taking it, coming to the U.S.
Absolutely.
and going to HBCUs?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my great good girlfriends, as you'll say, is a graduate of Tougaloo.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, Tougaloo was a UNCF institution. So we were able to begin and finish our HBCU experiences at UNCF institutions. And so we talk all the time about our experiences in Germany and our experiences by coming back to America, attending smaller HBCUs and still having the time of our life.
Nice. That's awesome. See, Dayna, I knew this was going to be special when you came on. You just have a whole different, unique experience coming from into this HBCU background. So that's really awesome. Now, let's talk a little bit about when you got to Edward Waters College, because we learned how you picked it. You talked a little bit about internship opportunities that you had, but when you set foot on the campus, did you already know what you wanted your major to be?
Yes. So I knew that I wanted to do something with radio. I knew that the radio was the closest thing to reach people and to support people at abroad. So I always had great love for music, and I had great love for community service and outreach, and I knew that was one great outlet that has always spoken well to the community. So I came to school wanting to be the first women syndicated radio co-host or anchor, whatever you want to call it. So I interned in radio all through college. But when I got out of college, jobs were not available as it was like a blackout or like the economy was really bad. So luckily, Edward Waters, made you focus on like a minor, and I had over 36 credit hours of English literature. So that allowed me to do my second passion, which was to educate. So I became an educator on high school level.
Nice. And I love that you shared that too, because I was speaking to somebody today, and of course you are in the rest of the world. Anybody who will be listening when they listen to this will, of course, we'll still be going through this COVID-19 pandemic and experiencing that firsthand. But I love how you had a plan in place, and you thought there was something that you were going to do, and then you had the ability to pivot because of how your college set you up. What kind of advice do you have for, I guess, like students right now who, of course, probably won't be experiencing their May graduation like they had in mind? They probably are going to be looking for jobs, and this is a really interesting time. So like, what kind of advice do you have for them as they kind of try to move through this? Because of course, like you said, when you graduated in 2004, it was not a pandemic, but definitely something with the job market was shaky.
Oh yeah, it was so sad because you were so excited about graduating, and now you were able to be a grown up and go after real money, and that was definitely not reality. So one thing that I always tell students when I go back to Edward Waters and I visit and I try to see how they're maneuvering through matriculation is that I make sure that they are doing their proper internship, researches, and that they are trying to figure out more than one way to make money or create an occupation than just one job title, because you might be presented with several obstacles and you want to have a plan A, B, C, or D, because at the end of the day, once you graduate, bills just start coming. So that's the advice, is to make sure that your major decision is a decision that can be versatile and work for you in more than one way.
Good advice here, because it's not saying that you won't ever end up there. Just like I've always thought when I spoke to you, you had like a good radio voice, and that's still probably down the line for you. Radio, podcasting, who knows? But it is good that you are versatile, and that's really good advice for students to hear right now for what they're going through. Actually, anytime, but right now is really useful.
Yeah, because this is the time I believe that although we can be so overwhelmed by being locked in the house and not being able to go outside, this is the time where we can kind of do a lot of self-reflection, a lot of research, kind of learn a lot. And one thing that was great for me upon graduation was finding out that it is important to have mentorship. To have mentorships are very important, and somebody tell you their real life experience, because in your mind you have painted a picture. Once I get this degree, then this door will open, and then that's it, and it'll be a cakewalk. And that's not always the story. And to be honest about disappointment and barriers and how to overcome them. So I just really try to encourage students and young people, and even my peers that have to reintroduce new career fields, as I have had to do myself. Just to be encouraged, but always figure out how can you still use your gift of purpose, but still take care of yourself.
But Dayna, coming from an education background, I know you said you have taught and you're an educator. What are you hearing right now, like from teachers and, your peers, especially when it comes down to how they're communicating with their students because of coronavirus? I know on the college level, a lot of people are, used to distance learning and virtual learning and all of that. But this is something kind of new on K through 12 level. So, like, what are you hearing out there right now?
Oh, I couldn't imagine. I'm kind of far removed from the classroom. However, I believe once an educator, always an educator. And I sympathize with them, because your students that need that physical one-on-one approach of meeting them where they are in order to get them where they need to be. I'm sure the computer is difficult because they feel your energy. They feel your passion in supporting them. And it's often hard to connect through the computer in a way that you can connect in the physical. So in my line of work through education, I work with students that were from communities that needed extra love and extra. They needed to see things that they could not see. Maybe possibly there are things that their family couldn't see in them. So I couldn't imagine being an educator at this time, trying to love on my babies through the computer.
Yeah.
And I just them from getting it done, and to keep their focus, and to keep them engaged, and to keep them learning, and to make sure they have everything that they need. Because a lot of times, you hear about students getting fed through out of school time programming. A lot of our students are not getting the proper meals that they need because the schools are closed. So it's drive-up services so that they still are eating. I know a lot of teachers are concerned about their well-being mentally and physically.
Mm-hmm.
So I just imagine it, and I really take my hats off to the educators that are still in the fight educating our youth.
Yeah. Yeah, same. I know my sister, she is only 1 year, I guess, removed from the classroom. She started working on the district level, and I think she wants to return. But she's been saying a lot about what you said. A lot of the students who that is their meal, or even if it's not about them, what they eat at school, it's about them and how they learn. And a lot of them do learn with that one-on-one interaction, and you know what I mean? And so this is a difficult and interesting time, and it'll be interesting to go back in history and see, just listen to it and hear the stories and how it all turned out. So
yeah, but that once you are energized in the morning, fed, then that's your brain is fed, you're ready to go, you're ready to start your learning. So you want to make sure that all the components for them to be as successful as possible are in place, and you really just can't ensure that in probably teaching through the cyber.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what I always have liked and noticed about you, Dayna? I could see why that you were an educator in education, because you have always had like a heart for it. You always care about people's well-being, which is going to kind of segue us into how I met you through Uncf, and you being an HBCU advocate, and you really getting into that space, and just encouraging students and pushing them towards our historically Black colleges and universities. So I know right now you are serving as a member of the National Alumni Council Board of Directors as the Vice President of Membership. But tell us a little bit about your journey in giving back and volunteerism, advocacy with HBCUs, how that started, how you got into that.
Wow, I'm going to try to make this really, really, really short.
You don't have to make it short. This is the HBCU podcast, so we want to know about your entire journey, girl.
I just want the people to be like, oh, my gosh. Okay, so like I said, it started in high school, when I was given the opportunity to celebrate HBCUs. And because now I'm a third-generation graduate, I already knew about HBCUs. I knew how great they were because I thought my mom was the smartest woman on earth. I thought her mom was the smartest woman before her. So I knew that great things came from HBCUs. So that's exactly where it started. And I'm glad that Johnny Cochran sowed the seed into me and believed in me to give me that first leadership opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
After that, when I picked the college, when I picked Edward Waters, the funniest story is that Edward Waters' bishop at the time was John Hurst Adams. And I grew up in a church that was named Adams Inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea until graduation that Adams Inspirational was named after John Hurst Adams. So my parents were all giving John, the bishop, a high five at graduation. And I just was like, this is crazy. It was so surreal because it was really God's divine intervention for me to go to Edward Waters. Even though that was not my original plan,
right.
Just so many people started surfacing and showing themselves that this was already in the plan. So that's what also supported my consistent dedication to my college, is that it is my purpose and my lifelong commitment to pour into Edward Waters and the succession of it. But moving back to how it started in high school. I got to college. I became a part of different organizations, SGA. I chartered the National Council for Negro Women Junior Chapter at our college. I was also a charter member for a National Association for Black Journalists. I was the first president. I also was the first queen for NABJ. And just helping people create experiences that were beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had the opportunity to join Delta, and that was like amazing because my mom is of Delta.
Oh, nice.
and she pledged to South Carolina State. Her line sister ended up marrying my mom's brother, so I just had them all around me
Yeah.
growing up, and that was just a destined thing that I wanted to do, to be like my mom. But also, I believed in the organization. After college, I've been blessed enough to be able to be connected to awesome women that made sure I'm always connected to awesome things. And because of my relationship by attending a UNCF member institution, I was directly connected to the NAC. We had inconsistent experiences as pre-alumni council, but after that I was familiar, so then I connected with the NAC. From the NAC local chapter, and I recently chartered the Edward Waters College DC Metro chapter here in DC. So I paid our membership dues and was able to get connected with the local IAC chapter here. And I started my walk in leadership there, where I eventually became the chapter president of the Inter-Alumni Council. And that is something very big for little old Edward Waters graduate, because people often overlook us because they never heard of us or they think that we're too small. So that was a real powerful thing for me to be able to grow and move about the way of the HBC community to get to leadership at that level. And then after that, the level of commitment has just been growing, and I've been meeting great people like you. But it's been a long and hard journey. A lot of sacrificing, a lot of advocating, a lot of money put up.
Yeah.
But it's been worth it. And this
Now,
year,
let me ask you really quick before you even go any further. For the people who are listening, and I know a lot of them are familiar, but a lot of them won't be. You talked about NAC, you talked about PAC, and then of course the IAC. So just break it down for the people who are listening, exactly what all of those organizations are, and then exactly how they feed into each other.
oh, my apologies. I'm on the phone with you.
Oh no, that's okay.
Right. You're right. Sorry, listeners. So, Pre-Alumni Council is the PAC. So, the Pre-Alumni Council is a council that are on all of the UNCF member institutions campuses to teach students before becoming alumni the importance and how to be avid givers to the institution once they graduate from the halls. The NAC is the National Alumni Council, which is the current role that I serve in now as the Vice President of Membership. And the Inter-Alumni Council is the IAC. And the Inter-Alumni Council is a council of all of the member institutions at the UNCF schools. And in the local area chapters are participatory with the IACs to be one council that does all the advocating for the member institutions in the local area to be able to identify students and families and to help those students get to and through college.
Nice. Okay. So, and now now you can kind of like piece together her journey if you've been listening, but like you've been involved, of course, at Edward Waters. You probably were a part of the pre-alumni council, and then you moved on and you've been involved in the NAC, and then IAC. You were the president for the DC area, correct?
Yes, I'm a former president for the Washington Inter-Alumni Council.
And before I cut you off and, ask you to explain a little bit, you were talking about all the sacrifice, all of the funds and all that goes into that. And I really want you to talk a little bit more about it, and not from a, like burdensome place, because I know that's not what you're going to do. And that's not why I'm bringing it up. But I want, people to hear from you, because I really have so much respect for what you have done in the HBCU community. A lot of people don't realize participating and advocating the way that a lot of us do for these organizations, that it does cost you personally. No one is footing the bill for this. It requires you to show your level of commitment monetarily, not just to support these institutions because you believe in them or organizations, but also to be in a leadership role, showing them this is the way you lead. So just talk a little bit about that and what your journey has been in that capacity.
Okay, so it's easy to talk about this coin. So let's talk about this coin that you have to put up to back your passion. So I love HBCUs, but I love Edward Waters so much. I can't even explain it. Like, honestly, I can't explain it. So I know that paying it forward will benefit somebody just as much, as not more, than it benefited me, right? Mm-hmm. So I can use an example of paying your way to get to all of these places where these conferences are going to be. That's a big sacrifice. When you're trying to get members to join the chapter, in order for you to throw a fundraiser, you have to have money. And so if you don't have money to make money, you have to put your own money up. Also, I paid our lifetime membership here for the HBCU DC Alliance for us to be members of that community. And just the sacrifice of returning to your institution. Every year, I promise you, I paid at least $1,000 in travel, rental car, hotel, and then just the simple activities. So it's a constant, price that you have to pay. But the sacrifice is, I've also recruited students have to provide students with things that you think that their parents would support them with. I've taken students to college. I've flown as far as to Texas to take a student to Texas College. I've taken a student to North Carolina. I've brought students to my college, and they need that support. I've even adopted a student from Baltimore and basically had to turn into a mother figure because he was an orphan. So when you believe in something and people, you just have you have a big sacrifice at what you'll do to see them to their succession.
See, that's awesome.
I answered.
No, of course you did. Like that, and I think too, I asked that too because I think people will never really know. Like a lot of us loosely use, I've sacrificed, I've done XYZ, and it really just goes to show the commitment that you have as an advocate. I know I've helped for the most part to usher people towards a website and towards Claflin. Hey girl, you should go here. It's a good idea, but I haven't done nothing on the level of, making sure personally they make it there. And so I definitely applaud you for that. But let's talk a little bit more about your role, because everything that you've done up until this point for Edward Waters and other students going to other HBCUs directly feeds into what you do for UNCF. And now you are the vice president for membership. So talk about what that means for you, what that means for us as advocates and listeners of this podcast, and how we can do our part to help.
Oh, I really appreciate this platform. I recently was elected the first week in February as the VP of membership for the National Alumni Council for UNCF. And I don't think I've cried that much at being able to receive an opportunity to serve.
Yeah.
It was oh so real, and I think I was numb when my name was called, actually, because you work so hard. And actually somebody told me, oh, Dayna, I think that you should run. And I was like, no, I don't think I can run for that. That's big time, and you often don't see what other people see in you.
Yeah.
So I had just been talking to myself about not counting myself out, and I was like, you know what? There's nothing to it but to do it, right? So I ran, and when I ran, I won, and I could not believe it, and it just started making more sense, as I started doing the work. So to talk a little bit about the work, the job of the vice president of membership basically is just to support the engagement and the fellowship and the fundraising that needs to go on for the sustainability of our member institutions. It's to identify the supporters and alumni in the community and families that are trying to attend, graduate, and just support our institutions. And that takes a lot of work. The vice president of membership are over the regional directors, and the regional directors, or the regional representatives, are regional point people that are in different parts of the world that are the go-to people for the people to get information on how can we support students through scholarships, how can we get information on the financial aid and admissions process, so we can support families and students on, again, getting to and through our institutions, and doing so through fundraising. So just trying to think of creative ways to get people engaged. And that is no easy task, because not only do you have to be attractive to the students that are interested, you have to be attractive to the students that are currently matriculating. You have to be attractive to the students that are recent graduates, that are called young alumni. and you have to be attracted to the cross-generational alumni. And the difficulty in that is, for some reason, and I think you know where I'm going, and I'm gonna try to keep it as cute as possible. But for some reason, older alumni think that you're trying to erase instead of join, and just instead of meeting the times where the times are to be relatable instead of engaging it all. For some reason, they often become our barriers of growth, and it's sad. And it's kind of like being a part of alumni communities. It doesn't pay you; you pay into it.
Right.
So when you're graduating, you're trying to find your flow. You're trying to find your stride. And often it's easy to be selfish and say, I don't have time for that. I'm trying to build my career. But what happens when you have a little bit of fire burning in you to know that if you turned your back on the issue, then what would it have meant for you in your place of matriculating through college? So it's like it's our responsibility to stay in the fight, try to find a common ground, try to actively bridge the gap, and just really bring home the understanding that it's all about the institution. It's all about the students. We all want the same thing. We just have to really figure out how can we do that respectfully.
Yeah. I want you to talk a little bit about UNCF, National Alumni Council, and then just the difference between the Black College Fund, the Thurgood Marshall, and then UNCF, and how they serve HBCUs across. And let me know if you can't speak wholly to the other organizations, but you can at least, let us know what those differences are or similarities.
So I really think that we all do a lot of similarities through fundraising and recruitment and support. But what NAC does with UNCF is that UNCF is separate. It's the oldest college fund that supports students, and it, of course, has a focus on the UNCF member institutions. But it's a support system for all HBCUs and minority students. It's students that have applied for UNCF scholarships that are at predominantly white institutions. So UNCF is just a home that is a feeder into the community, the minority community, and support all students to receive their education at the college level. The NAC is just the umbrella under the UNCF that wants to make sure that alumni stay committed, that the NAAs, which are the National Alumni Associations, have the information to function, that we are coming together at a round table to talk about the things that work for us, the things that don't work for us, so that we can constantly and continuously grow. Just like any other corporation or organization, how Fortune 500 companies and sororities and fraternities have yearly conventions and conferences. It is important that we have conferences so that we always bring the issues and meet the issues where they are to eradicate the things that are not for us and our growth. So to be a part of our NACs and to be a part of our National Alumni Associations are very important to the support of the college, because the college needs to know who are the people that are a part of the lineage that is the reason why the college still stands. So that is really what UNCF NAC is about. It is about being a home base for people to galvanize, to come together to make sure that the alumni engagement and fundraising is at the forefront of support to our institutions and the livelihood of them.
How do you get yourself involved from the student level, and then how do you get yourself involved from the alumni level? And does that come with any particular membership fees or anything like that?
Oh, everything has a fee.
Nothing is free.
Nothing is free, but you would definitely get sponsored or get mentored. That's why I said that mentor, you can wink, wink, is your mentor. Can you take care of my fee? But no, in all seriousness, how students can get connected is if you're at a UNCF member institution, you can definitely get connected with the Pre-Alumni Council. If you are at a public HBCU, you could just go to the Institution Advancement Office and get connected with the Alumni Affairs Department to learn how to be a part of that transition of alumni giving. When you graduate, most people graduate and find out at graduation about the NAA when they're taking their oath.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even know what it is because they matriculated, and not everybody was abreast to know what the National Alumni Association really did and what the role was, and the first interaction with that graduation. But we all know at graduation, you just ready to get your paper and bounce, right?
Right.
So you need somebody to kind of reach back and follow with you. So that's what you could do when you're a student, but when you're transitioning, when you get back to your hometown, it's important that you actually hold the alumni accountable to help you in your job search, to help you in your mentorship, to help you in your transitioning by researching what is the nearest local alumni chapter, because that's what you have in common by being alumnus of that institution. So that's something that recent grads can do, and the alumni members, something that they can create is contacting the school to see who the new and recent graduates are going to be and who they are. And that kind of brings me to the point of, even if you're out of touch and you do not know and you have not known, the institution's address has not changed. But our
This is
address
true. This is true.
and I heard that at a conference before. So whenever, because you're always family, it's a lifetime relationship. Nobody can erase your education, right? So you just call, pick up the phone, and for the most part, we all are welcoming, and we all are excited to welcome back any disconnected alumni. One thing that I know that I did as local chapter president for my own NAAs, every year during alumni weekend, I would find out who were the what was the roster for students in the region that I serve, and then the seniors would get a graduation gift, and the other students would just get a dinner or a meal and some type of token with my information on it, so that they could keep in contact with me, so that I could be abreast about it. They were running for the college queen or any class presidents or something like that, so we could celebrate them. And they knew when they came home, they could ask us for support for internships, other things, to establish relationships, let them know who you are, make them feel comfortable to talk to you about the decisions they're trying to make in life. So just to establish and engage with them.
Yeah, that's good feedback, and I'm actually glad. I really wanted you to give people a good overview, and you've done that, and so I feel like now I'm excited to finally have somebody on the podcast who is like really in it and really knows what's what from the alumni level. We're gonna talk a little bit about Edward Waters. We're gonna talk a little bit about Alumni Weekend and all of that good stuff. But before we chit chat about that, I did want to ask you, for alums who, because this is what I see a lot. We talked a little bit about National Alumni Associations and how they don't connect with those graduating seniors until graduation. That's usually the first time a lot of them have seen one another. But once they do, it seems like those graduates, the only way they connect with us is job wise. Like they want to know, how can you hook me up with a job? And then after that job has been secured or that help has been provided, we still don't see them. How can we bridge that how can we bridge that gap? Because I just see each of us just kind of using each other, and I'm not saying that you should not use the resources that are available to you, but how do we engage them more instead of it being a one-off each time? Like, hey, you know anywhere where I could find a job? Oh yeah, we do. Here's this. And then it's see you later and we never see you again. What advice do you have on bridging that gap with alumni and national alumni associations?
Right. So I spoke about in my campaign about I wasn't interested in establishing chapters, but I was interested in establishing relationships. So I think that when you establish relationships, you talk about much more things than just self-serving things. You talk about things that are beneficial across the board. You talk about how you can service the organization. You talk about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. You talk about what excites you, what innovative ideas you have that can support the growth of something. So I think that we should focus on having and establishing genuine relationships where we're not asking for anything from one another other than, how was your day? How was your semester? How is it going? And I think that once you do that, then it breaks down all barriers and apprehension of joining something that seems like it's only a one-way street.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just as simple as it is. Let's start engaging and fellowshipping just to love one another.
Yeah. That's good advice. Very good advice. And I'm sure that's something that you are continuing to do, because you guys, if you don't follow Dayna, and I'll let her share if she wants to at the end of the podcast what her social media is, but what you'll learn from her is she does love some Edward Waters. And right now she is in the thick of a really nice campaign for Edward Waters, and it's all surrounding your alumni weekend. So tell us all about Edward Waters Alumni Weekend, what it is, because I've heard only a few other HBCUs that do something outside of homecoming, or in addition to homecoming, that's specifically surrounding alumni. So tell us about it, how it came about, how you're involved.
Okay. So Alumni Weekend started with older alumni, and it started out by, it being a Greek thing, right? So it was like a Greek Alumni Weekend, and then it turned into old school, I believe, and then it turned into just Alumni Weekend. And so I didn't really get involved with Alumni Weekend until the immediate, he's the immediate past. No, I'm sorry. So I didn't make a mistake. I didn't get involved with Alumni Weekend until one of the national presidents asked me to support them in Alumni Weekend, because Alumni Weekend before that was independent.
Mm-hmm.
And then national alumni president that was very popular and well received by people, he said, hey, this makes sense that we join the efforts. So let's join the efforts. When he did that, he understood that I had a great reach with people, and he asked that I join his team, and then I was able to get involved with Alumni Weekend. We tried then to make it make sense to the institution, the National Alumni Association, and just alumni in general. When he got out of office, he realized that the members of the National Alumni Association at the leadership level, they really didn't understand nor respect it at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So he took it back, and he still ran it with the people that independently started the Alumni Weekend from the beginning. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, and to keep his legacy alive as far as the focus of alumni giving, I went to the president of the college. I let the president of the college know that this weekend is heavily and highly supported by alumni, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to advocate and just make alumni aware about alumni giving, alumni engagement,
mm-hmm.
and really just be able to cultivate an atmosphere of giving. So that's how my involvement with Alumni Weekend started, and currently is going on. And I could tell you a little bit about...
Yeah, tell us what it is, because from what I have been seeing across your social media, and I know you invited me to come, and then coronavirus took over the world, but what exactly is Alumni Weekend? Because it looks lit.
So unfortunately, this is only the downfall from Alumni Weekend. Alumni Weekend is so supported that at one point people used to go to both equally, homecoming and Alumni Weekend. But alumni felt like, we don't really get to do all of what we want to do. We don't really get to reach everybody and just kick it without any place to go, because homecoming, you got to go to the parade, you got to go to the football game, you got to go to the step show, you always kind of constantly just moving.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with Alumni Weekend, it is simply a big cookout.
Nice.
It's a big reunion on the yard, and believe it or not, we are there from the morning to the night. So literally, you could start setting up for Alumni Weekend at 11 o'clock in the morning, and people are still on campus until 12 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
Fellowshipping, eating, laughing, joking, taking pictures, catching up, and it just feels so good to have that time with your peers that you haven't seen in years, or some that you don't get to see but one time a year, and it just really is like a family reunion. That's the best way for me to describe it.
Yeah.
But as you know, being on this side of HBCU advocacy, it needs to be a return to college,
right?
And that's always the message. You have to party with a purpose, and that's what left away or never was really in place to the understanding that when you return to your alma mater, you should never return to your alma mater empty-handed and leave with not contributing something to the institution.
Mm-hmm.
You should, even if it's something as small as something from the bookstore, or just, you know, giving $10 or $5, or sponsoring a student in something, or some type of volunteering through speaking or something. You should be able to give something back when you return. You can't just return to have a good time. You have to return to make an impact. And so this year, our efforts were, we did an alumni challenge. And our alumni giving challenge consisted of asking all the organizations on campus that were the D9, the choir, basketball, football, you know, those kind of organizations, to gather with their people to at least commit to giving $1,000 each organization.
Mm-hmm.
And also create a platform for the independent alumni givers. And if you had like a flossy posse, if you wanted to say the flossy posse thing, $1,000.
Girls weekend.
Right, then you could put in the flossy posse. So what that was going to do is that you have alums that don't really know where they fit in. You have alums that are not really interested in going to meetings. You have alums that don't really want to deal with the NAA. You have alums that don't really want to respond to emails all the time from the institution, but they don't mind giving, right? So you want to create a place where you know who they are, you know how to approach them, you want to show them that it's more than one way to support your institution, but ultimately we must all give something, right? So I started to create a committee. So the committee was created, and we had a service project, we had the fundraising chairs, we had the event chairs, and we had vendors. The vendors were going to showcase alumni entrepreneurs, and the vendor fee was going to go toward the challenge, right? Mm-hmm. So that was also a great thing. The choir had shirts made where they were going to do a gospel explosion on Sunday, and they were going to have a gospel concert and service, in a sense, where the gospel choir from all years, the alumni choir were going to get together, and they had rehearsal on Saturday, and they were going to perform on Sunday. So what this did was, bowling was supposed to be yesterday night. Tonight was going to be like a happy hour party. Tomorrow was going to be the Yard Fest with the DJing, the strolling, it was going to be vendors out there. It was going to be like a big event, a community event. And we also had a service project where we were going to give something to the surrounding communities. Because as you know, HBCUs sit in the heart of communities for the most part. And we were going to do a service project on campus. So with all of these activities that were going on, you know what was happening? Alumni engagement. At that time, with these relatable moments, like I said about building relationships,
right,
it was a direct slap on the hand. Like, you haven't given any money. Where have you been? It has been, hey, what's been going on? Or, what you doing? Oh, have you thought about this? It was a time to allow people to get familiar with one another, let their hair down.
Share their gifts if they wanted to. Like, oh, I know how to do this. I know this person who can help y'all, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. And so guess what was going to happen? At the end of Alumni Weekend, all the emails that had been collected all throughout advocating and promotion of Alumni Weekend Giving Challenge and all the money, all of that was going to be turned into institutional advancement to support the institution and students in scholarship. And that also gave the database for Alumni Affairs a boost, because with the turnover rates at our institutions, oftentimes data is lost. Mm-hmm. And the disconnection with the NAA, because the NAAs are outdated. If the president is class of 1960 something, and the whole cabinet, the youngest person is from 1980,
ooh, yeah,
90s, 2000s. So and that's our reality at a lot of our institutions.
Yeah,
the NAA does not match the current situation. So I know I graduated 16 years ago, May 1st. So look at all the people after me, mm-hmm. and then look at the people before me. So we really need to try to learn how to bridge the gap. So that's what Alumni Weekend's sole purpose was. And we're so braggadocious, and we're so about our school, and we're so happy about our school. But one thing we do, like every other HBCU, we have to really kind of massage that giving tool.
Yeah. Dayna, I love what y'all are doing, and she's sharing, basically. Like, she giving you the keys to the kingdom, and all you have to do is get involved and be that person for your alma mater who comes up with a mini alumni weekend or a mini giving challenge or something like that that returns funds back to your alma mater. Now, Dayna, I know you guys had grand plans and it looked like it was about to go down. How have y'all like really turned and pivoted because of coronavirus? Is a lot of this still happening virtually, or how do people still get involved?
So, for full transparency, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm very transparent. And sometimes it could be a good thing, sometimes it could be a bad thing. But when Corona and, when that happened and the weekend was canceled, they gave the opportunity for other alumni to kind of overshadow the work that had been taking place over the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of, started all these other things, like these virtual parties. But it's not an issue because, you have different audiences.
Right.
You have the older alums, you have the middle alums, and you have the younger alums, right? So, it'll be nice if we all go party together, but it's okay that we party separately. How we are maneuvering through it is just trying to stay focused on what our goal was when we were in the physical.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal in the physical was that we stay committed to what we told the president and the college that we were going to do. We're just still avidly asking and keeping in contact through the telephone, emails, text messages, posts, direct messages to the people in the organizations that said they were going to give, and we're holding them accountable. We're telling them that even though we were not able to party in the physical, we can still raise the money virtually, and we can still show the president that COVID or not, we still are invested into giving to our institution.
Nice.
That's all we've been doing, is just trying to stay focused. And just really trying to let people know that it's okay, but it's only one EWC. So that's what matters. It's not all these different egos, these different personalities, but it is a protocol to things. And it's kind of like when things are done the right way and the money is going in the right direction, all is well and the right things and the right people benefit. So we just been trying to stay focused on our promotion, our advocacy for alumni giving for our institution, and hoping that we're making people feel alive again. I know that my college queen, from when I was a sophomore or so, I think, sophomore, junior, she came at a homecoming this year and said, Dayna, I see what you're doing. I've been wanting to get back involved. How can I help? So automatically, I put her as the queen liaison. So she was in charge of reaching out to all year's queens, asking them for a donation, creating a letter to send to them, to tell them what our purpose was, to try to get them back in the fold, to get their information so we can submit it to institution advancement.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is just, now that we're in the crunch and the conclusion of the weekend, is that we're just really kind of doing this challenge thing to its fullest. We honored our highest given individual, alumni giver, by the deadline. We honored that person. We honored our Tiger Spirit person. We're going to honor our top 10 individual givers. We honor our organizational people that met their minimum commitment. And so just to keep them engaged, it's kind of rivalry, it's kind of competition, but it's all in love and support of awarded. So we're just going to continue that to the end, and then that's a great way to transition into alumni giving to the institution, to show them how to give, how to plan financially, and that you don't have to give every month, but that you can if you want. And it could be as small as 1866 when we were founded.
Yes. You know what, Dayna? So many things have continued to go through my mind while you were talking, oh my gosh, this would be cool to do, this would be cool to do, because I usually always ask people about what does it look like, what does giving look like for you, but this entire conversation has been about how you give back to HBCUs, how you give back to Edward Waters. And so I just want to say thank you, because the level of commitment that you have, I'm telling you, it's something that's very, very rare. You're like a unicorn in the HBCU community. So shout out to you and everything that you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I hope that somebody is able to be blessed and learn some great and unique ideas, or just be encouraged to just hang in there.
Yeah, and we're definitely not done, because the thing is, we've talked so much about giving, which is usually the last thing I ask people about, that I haven't even gotten into all the fun stuff that you used to do as a student at Edward Waters. So let's talk about what are some of your favorite memories from when you were a student at Edward Waters.
You know, I think that I really didn't understand how to really let my hair down until I got to Edward Waters. I had never seen anything like that in my life. I had never seen people that could just do so much with nothing to do, in a
Yeah.
sense. Like, so when you know where you're from, and I know that DC is beneath the Mason-Dixon, but when you're from up north, I'm gonna say that. When you're from this way, and then you go to the South, you know, just the genuineness of people just kicking it, and not necessarily having to be at an event, but to have a blast. That was my best. Just in the dormitory, going to the crab truck. I actually, my freshman year, saw this guy outside boil crabs on a table, like a metal table, and he had like sticks and rocks. I know this sounds very crazy and Flintstone-ish, but seriously, had a crab boil on his own outside my dormitory, and I'm sure that was all kind of illegal, but just to see that, and everybody was eating out of that pot, and it was like a family love, you know, like to see that my girlfriends and I, we used to meet up on a basketball court on Sundays and go to Popeyes and get biscuits and just have like our little back in the day version of Red Table Talk, and that was fun. Just being able to be outside, just kicking it, being able to be in a building at any time in the morning or night and be able to knock on somebody's door if you were feeling lonely, and just being able to have like a sister to talk to. So I would not trade my HBCU experience for anything. And all the people probably talk about their sorority experience being that fun, but no, hands down, just my walk through college in total, meeting people from all walks of life, learning people from internationally. I had a great relationship with the Bahamian students, and just being taken in by them like I was their own international student or sister was just a wonderful experience. So it's not one thing that I could say that was interesting. Just my experience overall by going to Edward Waters was just fun, just kicking it, just the simple everyday life of kicking it.
Yeah. That's awesome. And you know what I thought about? Because I like that you pointed out, if you born up north and then you come down south. I love to hear people from up north come down south for a college experience and just what their take on it is, because what you said is so very true. Like, some of us, the colleges that we even end up at with some of y'all, some of us come from even more rural places than where the college is. So a lot of times we are excited to be like somewhere where something is going on. Now, that's not necessarily my story, but down south we definitely know how to chill and make something out of nothing.
Well, I never saw people enjoy life the way I did when I went to the South. Now, you know, in D.C. we have go-go music, and it's different because, you know, people come from all over. They come to D.C. like, what is go-go music?
Yeah.
But in the South was the first time that I saw men and women dancing. And I mean dancing, separately, together, however. Like, I never saw people dancing, having a good time like that in my life. And they would dance anywhere. At the basketball game in the middle of the floor, on the yard in the middle of the grass, in the cafeteria, at the party. And they just were loving life. And I just loved the freeness of the South. And after partying all week, all night long, they were up at church in the morning, whether on campus or whether church was down the street.
Amen.
You were going to, and I love that component also.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to school in Florida because I am one of those people who loves warm weather. I don't care how warm it gets. Like, I'm just fine with it. So I know you had a good time in Florida. Like, I wish I could have gone to school in Florida.
Like, let me tell you how bad it is, and I don't know if anybody do this. If I was going to get a new job and they ask you about your dates of unavailability, homecoming was on there every year. It was mandatory. Homecoming and alumni weekend. If I didn't know the date, I would tell them, it's like the second week in April. I know for sure. Or whatever. I didn't care because I had to be there. Like, I remember one time having I was just in my new position on the board as the Eastern Region Regional Rep, and the national president put our first executive board meeting during the alumni weekend. I thought that was the end of the world. I couldn't believe it. So I had to figure out how I could get down there and take care of my responsibilities with the board. I got it done, but that's how serious it is for me to return to Florida. Like, Jacksonville is definitely another home for me. I love it. I get like so inspired when I'm in the city.
If you could encourage a student to choose an HBCU, or it could be just your HBCU, I'm sure you're biased, but what would you say to them?
Well, I tell people that what you cannot emulate is the experience at HBCU. You know, culturally, it's important that we do not discredit what we have going on, and that we celebrate the things and the sacrifices that were made for us to be able to get an education. And so that actually is a great question that you've asked me, because in high school in Germany, they told the minority students that it would not be in our best benefit to attend an HBCU because we would not be successful. And it was my job then to advocate for my own peers. And so now I just ask them, well, what are your concerns about attending an HBCU? What are the things that you are not in agreement with from what you're hearing? And so I just try to have a conversation. And sometimes HBCU is not for them. But I'm fine as long as it's not that we're not good enough, right? I'm fine if it's not your choice or your decision, but I'm not fine with you thinking that HBCUs are less than and are not good enough for you and will not supply you with the adequate amount of resources and tools and a great education as a PWI. I'm not cool with that. So that'll be a debatable discussion. But I'm fine if HBCUs are not your personal choice because you want something different. The cliche thing that people say is, oh, I don't want to go to HBCU because I've been around black people all my life and I'm black, right? But our HBCUs are starting to look very,
very different
diverse and very different, right? But we still have that culturalistic component. So I would just tell students to do their research and go where you feel like it's home. Go where you feel as if you'll get your best experience academically and socially.
I like that answer. I really love that answer.
You know, one thing I think that we probably did not talk about is the self-esteem piece. So I will say this. I will never forget when I made an A on expository writing and how I was celebrated by my professor, but how quickly I was ready to call my mom and how great it felt to feel like I had accomplished something big. And people make A's all the time, but I'm just saying in this particular class, I felt like I was going to have 2 pieces of hair at the end of the semester. And what I mean by that is that our college president, Dr. Jimmy Jenkins, and I call him out, every week he touched base with us, and every week he encouraged us, and every week he told us that we were rising stars. When you look to the northeast, you'll see a rising star, and that star is called Edward Waters College. Just like on your job, if you are just as good as you feel, and I feel like you have to feel comfortable and prideful and well with yourself when you graduate from these institutions. And you cannot let anybody make you feel less than by attending them. Anybody that knows that I'm a graduate of Edward Waters, they probably would think it's the biggest place on earth because that's how I walk, that's how I talk, and that's how I expect you to address me as an Edward Waters College alum. You have got to be prideful by being a part of this historic culture. And I just really want to really hone in on that self-esteem piece because you are only as good as you feel. And I think that it is important that we feel great about being graduates of HBCUs and that we feel great about being about such a unique community. And I think that alone will take us far in our advocating and our sustainability of our institutions.
Dayna, you said that so perfectly, and you're right. That's something we haven't touched on before, and it's something that's really, really important because I know, at least just in America in general, you will hear all kinds of things about not just the African American community, but, just minority communities in general. And a lot of them are stereotypes. A lot of them are derogatory. And so by the time that people get to the college level, there's no telling what kind of, abuse has been seen to their self-esteem just from society. So I love that you brought up how our HBCUs are there to uplift, because similar to Edward Waters, Dr. Tisdale is no longer the president at Claflin University anymore, but when he was there for 25 years, one thing that they always told each of us to have, if you meet any Claflinite who was under his time, his administration, it was the Claflin Confidence. That's what they told us about. Have the Claflin Confidence. When you go to this meeting, you go to this job interview, you meet this person, you bring the Claflin Confidence. And so I think a lot of our HBCUs, if they're not doing that, definitely jump on the bandwagon. But I think that's a really good point you brought up, because Edward Waters, I love the Rising Star piece, and it's very, it's simple, you would think, but it's so necessary.
But there's also one more thing that I forgot, is that we, our alumni, our younger alumni do not lack the ability. We lack the exposure of the opportunity of leadership. And that's what people don't really have the vested time in, is fighting through the barriers of being rejected from our own. And just to be very honest and transparent, when you're trying to build yourself and you're trying to find your way and you're trying to establish yourself, you don't have time to fight with your own about being given the opportunity to serve for free. And so we need opportunities so that we can be, more included, cross-generational, to show that the school's legacy is safe in our hands. But you won't know that until we're given the opportunity. So just continue to break down barriers and bridging the gaps so that we can be long life lasting institutions. And so that really is all that I think that we didn't cover.
Oh my gosh, that's the perfect place to wrap this up. Dayna, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast and just bringing all of your wisdom, all of your positivity, all of your skills and expertise, because I'm going to talk offline a little bit too with you, because you just really sparked some things while you were talking to me. But thank you so much for being here. Before we go, what is coming up for you or with the organizations you serve, and how can people or listeners find you, whether that be on social media or a website, etc.?
Okay, so people can find me. I think I'm pretty boring, but people can find me on Facebook at Dayna Kent, Dayna, last name Kent, or on Instagram at DaynaDayne15. And the next thing that's coming up is our HBCU Bound Day with several organizations, but mainly spearheaded by our national president, Anthony Brown. And it will take place Friday. It's a virtual celebration, May 1st. And you can find information on the NAC Uncf Instagram page, or on Anthony Brown's page, or on majority of all the HBCU pages by now, because we're having daily conference calls with information about it. And basically, this HBCU Bound is to show support of alumni, parents, students, and community that are HBCU bound for 2020 and the Student Recognition Day, because you know that May 1st typically would have been like signing day for HBCU. So just to support the students, even though the virus is going on, we still want to celebrate them in the same, because we're prayerful that this will be over soon.
Nice. Well, you heard it here first, y'all. And listen, if you missed anything that Dayna said, don't worry. You'll be able to find all the links to what she was mentioning in the episode description. And you can also find all of this information at thehbcupodcast.com. So please don't worry about that. That's where you can find us. You can find us also at thehbcupodcast.com, the HBCU Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Dayna, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Natasha.
Thank you so much for listening to the HBCU podcast. We have so much more HBCU content on the way, so make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast, and visit us at thehbcupodcast.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the HBCU Podcast. Like us on Facebook. We love you for listening. Until next time.